Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Reborn as Gohan in future timeline. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. What If Ichigo Awoke his true powers will be finished soon, since we've nearly at the end of the story. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if Gacha system in Modern Family World? What if Transmigrated in Bleach World? What if Transmigrated in One Piece and becoming a Marine? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 181. What did you say? Galaxy King thought he heard incorrectly. Jocko repeated, the galactic prison was breached, and all the gangsters escaped. Now the galactic prison has fallen. Who is so bold? Who dares to invade the galactic prison? The tentacles on the Galaxy King kept trembling, looking very angry. It's the Heater family. Awoke and the others? That's right. They are really ambitious. They have acted blatantly in the past few decades and constantly tested the bottom line of our galactic patrol. Now they can't hold back anymore. That's not true. Lord Galaxy King, now is not the time to discuss this. Let's run away quickly, Jocko encouraged. No, Jocko, how can we, the Galactic Patrol, be afraid of characters like the Heater family? We have to launch a counterattack and let them know how powerful our Galactic Patrol is. But today is different from the past. They seem to have become much stronger. Don't inflate other people's ambitions and destroy your own confidence. Send an order to summon all the patrols, arrest the Heater family, and throw all the escaped criminals back into galactic prison. The Galaxy King's tone allowed no room for refutation. He didn't believe that a mere Heater family could destroy them. Okay. Jocko looked downcast. He planned to pass the order and then quietly escape, away from this place of right and wrong. By the way, where's Meruz? Galaxy King asked. Officer Meruz went out on duty this morning, and he hasn't come back yet. Ah, then tell him to come back quickly. Hearing that Meruz was not there, the Galaxy King became a little panicked. Yes. Jocko bowed, turned around, and left to give the Galaxy King's order. In fact, at this moment, there was no need for the Galaxy King's order. Many galactic patrols had already spontaneously joined the battle and were fighting with the escaped criminals. It's just that most of the people left here were logistics patrols, and their combat effectiveness was not outstanding, and they were not enough to compete with those crazy criminals. Most of the villains in the galactic prison were arrested by Meruz. Who is Meruz? A trainee angel. Although he cannot use the power of angels in the mortal world, his physical strength and fighting skills alone make him the pinnacle of the T0 level in this world. Of course, in addition to Meruz, the Galactic Patrol Organization also has some very capable patrol officers. It's just that these patrol officers spend most of their time on the front line performing tasks. That's why the Galaxy King issued an order to recall all the galactic patrolmen to join the war. Jocko stepped on his short legs and prepared to run out of the Galaxy King's meeting hall. At this moment, a boom explosion sounded. Jocko felt like the world was spinning, and a wave of heat hit his face. Then his body was shaken by the aftermath of the explosion and flew towards the Galaxy King. The two of them collided with each other and turned into gourds rolling on the ground. Ah, Jocko, you hit my little tentacle. Ah, I'm sorry. Who is it? Who caused the explosion? Jocko and the Galaxy King turned over and stood up in surprise. Before they could stand up straight, they heard a burst of laughter coming from outside the door. Haha, long time no see, King of the Galaxy. Awoke's tall figure walked in from the gate. He opened his mouth and laughed, looking at the Galaxy King and Jocko unscrupulously. and behind him was Gas, who was inseparable from him. Galaxy King's eyes were shocked, and he immediately shouted at the top of his lungs, "Meruz, save me!" Jocko felt a little embarrassed. He was obviously next to the Galaxy King, but the Galaxy King called for Meruz. It was so embarrassing, but there was nothing he could do. "Meruz?" Awoke stared at him and continued with a grin, "Ha, Meruz hasn't shown up yet. He must have been frightened and ran away after seeing how powerful my brothers have become. Gas, tie up the Galaxy King and kill the useless-looking patrolman next to him." "Yes." Gas nodded and took a step forward. "What? Kill?" Jocko was so frightened that he lost his mind and turned blue. He immediately begged loudly for mercy. "Don't kill me, don't kill me, I can be useful." He yelled at the top of his lungs, swinging his legs. "Oh? What can you do?" Awoke asked with a smile. Hearing Awoke's response, Gas, who originally planned to kill Jocko first, raised his hand and shot out a purple key ray, which instantly materialized. The king of the galaxy was trapped. I. Jocko thought for a long time, completely unable to imagine what use he could be. I can shop online, and I can tell jokes. You also think my clothes are cool, right? Gas. Damn, you're crazy, just kill him. Awoke waved his hand in disgust. Okay. Gas stretched out his palm, facing Jocko from afar. The next second, Jocko's body melted quickly and turned into pink sand powder that dissipated in the wind. Galaxy King swallowed his saliva and remained silent. Awoke walked over, patted his head, and said with a smile, "Those who win are heroes, Galaxy King, I hope you can understand this truth. Let me tell you quietly, I have conquered all the prisoners in the galactic prison. Moreover, I have killed all the galactic patrolmen outside, they were all a bunch of trash." Killed them all? Galaxy King's pupils shrank for a moment. He didn't expect Awoke to move so fast, nor did he expect so many galactic patrols to be slaughtered so easily. In other words, the data has changed, the combat power of Awoke and Gas has increased, and the danger level has skyrocketed. What happened to make the Heater family what they are now? Although the previous Heater family was engaged in some fringe gray businesses, it had not constituted a criminal offense. Although the Galactic Patrol had been keeping an eye on them, there was not enough evidence to launch an arrest operation. But who would have thought they would come to kill him today? The Galaxy King looked at Gas, who was standing there quietly, and seemed to see the figure of Meruz in a trance. What do you want? The Galaxy King's mouth was very dry. He never thought it would be like this. He, the majestic king of the galaxy, had now turned into a piece of fish on the chopping board, ready to be slaughtered by others. It's impossible to accept, but he has to accept it. What do we want? It's very simple. Call Meruz. I've long wanted to meet this legendary Galactic Patrol elite, Awoke said. The Galaxy King said. Okay, I originally asked Jocko to notify Meruz to come back, but he was killed by you, so I can only issue the summons myself. Awoke was stunned for a moment. Unexpectedly, he did something that wasted time unintentionally. At the same time, on Beerus's god of destruction planet, Goku, Vegeta, and Broly were fighting together, and a loud roaring sound erupted. Beerus lay down on a stone boardly, licking the pudding in his hand for a long time. But he didn't expect that the pudding in his hand would be swept away by the key aftermath of the three's fight. Therefore, he stood up angrily, burning with fighting spirit, and rushed towards the three, turning it into a melee between three people and one god. On the other side, Whis was holding the scepter, concentrating on the green-lit magic bead on top of the scepter. The magic bead showed what was happening at the Galactic Patrol headquarters. What's going on? There's something wrong with this gas, Whis murmured. Chapter 182. Is it because of him that the prophecy fish suffers from insomnia? I see. Using the dragon balls to gain power. Whis murmured to himself and continued to look at the image in the magic bead. As for this Meruz. What's going on? The headquarters of the Galactic Patrol. The Heater family took all the prisoners under their command and sent a large number of prisoners to interfere with the major forces and organizations in the 7th universe, declaring that the Heater family would dominate the universe. It didn't take long for Meruz to be recalled to the Galactic Patrol headquarters. After getting off the spacecraft, Meruz frowned and noticed the strange atmosphere there. He looked around and saw the bodies lying in pools of blood. More than 90% of these corpses were Galactic Patrol officers, with only a few being prisoners. Seeing the miserable condition of his former colleagues, Meruz walked straight to the Galaxy King's meeting hall without saying a word. He clearly sensed that there were many people there. And he also understood that as long as he went there, he would know what was going on. Meruz, who cannot use the power of angels without authorization, can only be regarded as a powerful mortal. He cannot predict the future. Many of his abilities cannot be used. Soon, Meruz arrived at the door of the chamber. A hearty laugh sounded from inside. Ha ha ha, it seems that Meruz has arrived. Is this voice Awoke of the Heater family? Awoke's figure flashed in Meruz's mind, and then he stepped in. What came into view was Awoke's figure, the tied-up Galaxy King, and Gas, who always had a cold expression. Upon seeing Meruz, the Galaxy King shouted, "Meruz, save me!" Meruz remained silent and didn't speak. He nodded lightly, then turned to look at Awoke, who had his hands on his hips with a proud look on his face. Awoke saw Meruz looking at him, spread his hands, and smiled. "Ah, Meruz, I've heard about you for a long time. It's rumored that you are the best elite in the Galactic Patrol. I cherish talent very much. How about joining me to conquer the universe?" Meruz frowned. "No, why did you kill those officers?" "Because trash doesn't deserve to live," Awoke said directly. "You are the ones who don't deserve to live," Meruz said. Conquering the universe again, such a boring game. But when he saw a large number of people he knew dead, Meruz still felt a little unhappy. Awoke sneered, "Humph. Since you are not willing to be used by me, let's see if you have the ability to leave alive. Gas, deal with him," Awoke said, taking a few steps back. Gas walked toward Meruz with a cold expression. The Galaxy King swallowed, not knowing what to say. Meruz is the ace of the Galactic Patrol. If even Meruz loses, then the Galactic Patrol will probably be erased from history starting today. Whoosh! Gas's body suddenly disappeared. The next moment, a purple axe appeared behind Meruz in Gas's right hand, and he slashed hard at Meruz's neck. Meruz is not tall, only about 165 centimeters. The axe with purple flames slashed down, and the void cracked open. Gas is very fast. But Meruz is even faster than him. The axe ripped through the void and struck, but in those few seconds, Meruz's figure blurred. The giant axe that tore apart space slashed into the air, and a burst of explosions directly destroyed the huge headquarters of the Galactic Patrol Organization. Cough cough cough. Awoke waved his hand to fan away the thick smoke that rose into the sky. Also disappearing with Meruz was the Galaxy King. Soon, a spaceship pierced the space and rushed toward the vast universe, carrying the Galaxy King, who had survived the disaster. And the spaceship he was riding on was Meruz's exclusive ship. The smoke cleared. There were huge rocks floating in the void. These stones were the remains of the bombed ruins of the Galactic Patrol headquarters. Meruz stood on top of one of the boulders. Awoke, who was flying in the air, looked at Meruz and smiled, saying, "He actually came out unscathed. It's true that he is the best. It's well deserved. It's such a pity." On the other side, Gas was also standing on a stone, staring at Meruz expressionlessly. Suddenly, Gas stretched out his index finger and pointed at Meruz. A huge purple air pillar roared out from his fingertips and rushed toward Meruz, not far away. The purple air pillar contained terrifying power, tearing everything apart. Wherever it passed, everything was destroyed and turned into nothingness. Meruz suddenly disappeared. The rocks under his feet were instantly annihilated by the purple air pillar. Subconsciously, Gas noticed a dangerous key coming from behind him. A huge shield instantly appeared in his right hand, and he suddenly turned around to block. At the same time, Meru's figure appeared. He held a special gun, aimed at Gas, and fired the key cannon. The key cannon hit Gas's shield, and for a moment, lightning shot out and sparks filled the air. Meru's was stunned for a moment. He hadn't expected Gas's reaction to be so quick and block his attack. It was really unexpected. "Humph, annoying guy," Gas said coldly, and a huge mace appeared in his other hand, which he swiped at Meru's. The combat boots on Meru's feet spurted out, and his body retreated violently, dodging the mace wrapped in purple ki. How could Gas just let him go? He continued to pursue him, and the mace in his hand danced into an afterimage as he blasted at Meru's furiously. But Meru's is a trainee angel, possessing a terrifying fighting instinct. Even though he cannot use the power of angels, his innate fighting instincts and skills are enough to compete with the average god of destruction. Therefore, even Gas, who has become the #1 warrior under the gods, cannot defeat him in a short time. But problems also emerged. The power of the special gun in Meru's hands was limited, and it was not enough to harm the current Gas. Therefore, today's battle is about Gas's crazy attacks and Meru's constant dodges with his high mobility. Neither can cause any damage to the other. Gas suddenly retracted his mace and shield, then flicked his fingers. An invisible ki swept across, and the combat uniform on Meru's suddenly melted, turning into particles of light and disappearing. Meru's was stunned for a moment. Destroyer ki? He was shocked. He hadn't expected that Gas also mastered some ways to use Destroyer ki. A mortal. How did he master this godly skill? Has God's skill become so cheap now? But in retrospect, he had seen Gohan use his Destroyer ki to kill the planet devourer more or less time. While Meru's was stunned, Gas seized the opportunity and punched Meru's away. But at the same time, Gas was also extremely surprised. I can't destroy his body, I can only destroy his battle suit? Why is this? It seems that this move he mastered can't deal with this enemy. He couldn't understand it, couldn't figure it out at all. Chapter 183. Damn it! Meru's couldn't help but burst into anger as his combat uniform was destroyed and he was punched. Although it didn't hurt him at all, he was still beaten. The angelic power that was dormant in him was about to explode. It only took a moment for the angel's power, which was about to go berserk, to be suppressed. The role of angels is to remain neutral and support their own gods of destruction. If he uses the power of angels indiscriminately in the mortal world and interferes with mortal affairs, he will be severely punished by the Grand Priest. If he uses the power of an angel indiscriminately, he may be facing a wall and thinking about it for thousands of years. If the punishment is more severe, it may even lead to his existence being wiped out. At this time, Gas's attack came again. He sprayed out a purple substance turnkey sword from his hands and appeared next to Meru's in an instant. He slashed with the sword, going crazy and showing no mercy at all. Because he cannot use the power of angels, Meru's lacked the means to attack and could only dodge by moving at high speed. Suddenly, there was a loud rumble in the air, and huge rocks exploded. The overflowing ki flew and destroyed many nearby planets. Awoke, who was watching the battle, held up a ki shield and struggled to hold on. Although he had been infused with ki by Gas and his combat effectiveness had greatly improved, even so, a battle of this level was not something he could participate in. Just resisting the ki aftermath was exhausting and miserable. Terrible. While dodging, Meru's grabbed hold of the air, and a long stick of unknown material appeared in his palm. He swung his long stick and hit Gas in the face. Gas was hit from the front and staggered, rolling in the air. But unfortunately, because there was no additional angel power, Meru's power could not harm Gas at all. Gas's whole body exploded with purple ki, and he jumped into the air. A spear filled with flames formed in his hand, and he threw it toward Meru's. Phew! The spear pierced the air, making a piercing sound, and headed straight for Meru's. The speed was so fast that lightning flashes swirled around the spear, and it was in front of Meru's in the blink of an eye. Meru's held up the long stick with both hands to block the spear that had broken through the air. Boom! Violent ki swept across. The terrible impact hit Meru's body, knocking him back repeatedly. Wherever he passed, there were traces of cracks in the space. Whoosh! Immediately afterward, streaks of purple ki came through the air and attacked Meru's from all directions. As time went by, Gas gradually adapted to the newly acquired power and became more comfortable in the fight. Meru's was also secretly surprised by Gas's progress. However, despite his surprise, the task at hand was to find a way to deal with the violent storm of ki attacks and purple spears in front of him. Since he was unable to use his angel power, Meru's fighting methods were indeed limited, and he felt helpless. For a moment, Meru's was actually suppressed by Gas. Just at the critical moment, Meru's hair rose slightly. A trace of angelic power, so weak that it was almost imperceptible, wrapped around his arms. Aha! He shouted loudly, like a thunderous explosion. Gas's purple spear was instantly shattered by him. Immediately afterward, Meru swung his long stick and swept away all the dense rain of purple ki blasts. Boom, boom, boom. A series of explosions resounded throughout the universe. The ki storm spread further into deep space. Seeing this, Gas was a little surprised and said, "You actually have hidden power?" On the other side, Meru's no longer wanted to fight, his figure blurred for an instant, and he left the scene, appearing on a strange planet. To put it simply, he had escaped. But there was no way around it. Gas's strength was beyond his expectations. His physical strength alone was nearly impossible to defeat. Fighting for a long time would be extremely detrimental to him. If he wanted to win, he would have to use the power of angels. But for him, the price was too high and not worth it. He had no choice but to use a little bit of the angel's power just now. He hoped he wouldn't be discovered by the Grand Priest, otherwise, he didn't know what kind of punishment he would face. After escaping from the battlefield, Meru still had lingering fears about using angel power just now. Suddenly, he looked up in the direction of the god of destruction planet and smiled bitterly. "Brother, have you been watching my fight?" "Hey, forget it, things have reached this point. If there is any punishment, come." On the other side, Whis looked at the ball and just smiled without saying anything. But in his heart, he confirmed Meru's identity. It turns out that this is the younger brother he has never met. What just happened? The ruins of the Galactic Patrol headquarters. Gas dispersed the smoke and appeared next to Elec. At this time, Elec was panting and in a state of embarrassment. Just the aftermath of the battle had almost killed him, so he was lucky to have survived. Buzz. Gas raised his hand. A beam of recovery magic fell on Elec. Elec was healed instantly, and his body returned to its peak condition. That was really dangerous. Elec breathed a sigh of relief, looking like he had survived a disaster. "Where's Meru's?" he asked. With his strength, he could not clearly see the battle situation, so he had no idea where Meru's had gone. "He escaped," Gas said truthfully. "Escaped? That's such a pity. But this guy's reputation is indeed well-deserved and very powerful. If you keep him alive, there will definitely be endless trouble in the future. If you get the chance, you still have to kill him," Elec said. "Yes." Gas nodded and continued, "He is indeed very powerful. His last blow just now easily broke my attack. He must have been hiding his strength before. If he had been fighting with that kind of power from the start, I wouldn't have been able to defeat him. I just don't know why he suddenly ran away. It's really strange." Elec said, "Maybe it's a technique for bursting out power in a short period of time. It probably won't last long, or it may be harmful to the body. He knew he couldn't defeat you during the burst of power, so he ran away." "Yeah, that makes sense." Gas nodded. That explanation seemed reasonable. Gas hesitated for a moment, then said, "Elec, you'd better not participate in the next battle. I'm afraid you will be injured." Elec took a serious look at his brother. What Gas said was true. For example, in the battle just now, he had barely survived the ki aftermath. It was really too dangerous. He didn't expect Gas's concern to come so suddenly. If he knew that he only had 2 years left in his life, He didn't know what Gas would think, or whether he would be sad. In this short period of time, Awoke actually regretted making such a wish. But in just 2 breaths, he put this emotion behind him. It's all worth it for the family's future. What does a mere life mean? Awoke nodded and said, well, I'll listen to you. I will go back to the family headquarters and wait for your good news. Maki and Oil will also return to headquarters. You can go to Earth next. Remember, kill all the Scions for me. Gas responded, well, I know. It's time to clean up this race that should have been exterminated long ago. The next moment, the image of Bardock flashed through his mind. His fists clenched tightly together, making a crackling sound. Veins appeared on his forehead, and he looked like a devil. Bardock was his mortal enemy decades ago. Because, decades ago, on planet Serial, he was ruthlessly defeated by Bardock. Chapter 184. More than 50 years ago. The Heater family and Frisia's Legion were in cahoots. They invaded planet Serial. At that time, the vanguard force that attacked the Serialians was none other than the Scions who were part of Frisia's Legion. The leader was the legendary Scion Bardock, who had a very high reputation at the time. The reason Bardock is considered a legendary Scion is because, as a lower-level Scion, he got stronger with each fight. Surpassing most of the superior warriors, he became one of the top 5 in combat effectiveness on planet Vegeta. Many lower-level Scions followed his example and respected him greatly. Because of Bardock's power, the team he led also became famous on planet Vegeta. On this planet, where the strong are revered, strength represents many things. But Scions themselves don't have much in the way of emotions. There isn't much sentiment to speak of. They are cruel and bloodthirsty, terrible war machines, a fighting nation that only knows how to fight. Pure Scions are such a people. The Battle of Planet Serial allowed Bardock to make another breakthrough, directly reaching the ceiling of Scion combat power at that time and becoming the strongest of all Scions. He led his team and many other Scions, becoming the weapon of Frisia and the Heater family, and they almost killed all the Namekians and Serialians living on planet Serial, driving them to the brink of annihilation. When Bardock encountered Muesli and her son, and saw the frightened eyes of the mother and child, he couldn't help but think back to his wife Jine and their newborn son Kakarot. Bardock felt a flash of pity in his heart and decided to let them go. But it was precisely because Bardock let Granola and Muesli go that he ended up facing a fateful battle with a near-death outcome. That was his battle with Gas. After the Scions reported that planet Serial had been cleansed, the 4 members of the Heater family came to the planet to take over. But an accident happened. The Heater family discovered the surviving Granola and his mother, as well as Mona Ito. Therefore, a battle inevitably broke out. Bardock had a strong sense of responsibility. But he was also a bundle of contradictions. Obviously, the destruction of the Serialians was inseparable from him, and his hands were stained with the blood of both Serialians and Namekians. But at the same time, to save Granola and his mother, Bardock was willing to risk his life and fight the Heater family to the death. Gas, the most powerful member of the Heater family, faced off against Bardock. At that time, Gas was still a teenager, but he had already shown his exceptional fighting talent and tenacious combat effectiveness. Bardock was no match for him. From the beginning of the battle, Bardock was at a disadvantage, being beaten passively and surrounded by danger. However, according to the classic plot of Dragon Ball, the Scions always make a breakthrough in the heat of battle, overtake their opponents, and ruthlessly suppress them. Without any surprise, Bardock's power suddenly exploded when he was on the verge of being beaten to death. The desperate situation allowed him to break through his limits at that moment, break free from the shackles, and become the strongest Scion warrior. He then defeated Gas. To cover Moneto's escape with young Granola, Granola's mother Muesli was shot through the chest by Awoke and died. More than 10 years passed like this. By the time Awoke saw Granola again, Granola had grown into an outstanding young man. Looking at Granola, Awoke became interested in his talent. After Mona Ito repeatedly promised not to reveal the hidden secrets of that year, Awoke recruited Granola. Granola worked for the Heater family for decades. Both parties remained at peace. It wasn't until Awoke decided to target the Dragon Balls that the conflict between the two sides broke out again. After being defeated by Bardock, Gas hated him. Gas regarded this defeat as a stain on his life and a source of shame. For a while, Gas's only wish was to meet Bardock again and kill him. This became his obsession. But unfortunately, not long after, he heard that planet Vegeta had been hit by a meteorite and exploded. All the science disappeared into the dust of history as planet Vegeta turned into fireworks in the universe. Gas thought that his anger had disappeared along with the explosion of planet Vegeta. But when he heard about the science again, he realized he had underestimated the obsession in his heart. His anger and hatred hadn't disappeared at all, they had just been hidden. Not only that, they had become even more intense. All science must die. After sending Awoke back to the base, Gas identified the direction of Earth, soared into the sky, flew across space with his body, and headed toward Earth. The current Gas was not very proficient in teleportation and couldn't teleport directly to Earth. And the speed of the spacecraft was too slow, far less than his own flying speed. So Gas chose this barbaric method to rush to Earth. Earth. Kami's lookout. Piccolo was floating in the air, meditating. Den stood at the edge of the square, surveying the globe. Mr. Popo stood beside him, saying nothing. Sebansuri, who had been following Piccolo, sat cross-legged on the ground. Capsule City. Bra sat on Trunk's shoulders and laughed like a silver bell. The chubby Beau sat on an armchair under a huge sun umbrella, enjoying the attention of a robot feeding him. He took a bite of cream cake on the left and a bouncy pudding on the right. He was enjoying himself very much. Young Bulma was developing new products in the research laboratory. Her forever young body seemed to have inexhaustible energy, so Bulma's current production was extremely high. From time to time, new products were developed or defects in existing products were improved. Mount Paozu. The three teenagers were fighting fiercely in the air, generating strong winds and great momentum. It was Goten, Trunks, and Pan. The strong wind blew through Mount Paozu, making a whining sound. Chi-Chi stuck her head out of the window and shouted loudly, "You guys, be careful and don't demolish the house." These three are much noisier than Gohan was before. When Gohan was a child, all he wanted to do was study. He didn't like fighting. Chi-Chi said with a smile. Maybe it's because Gohan didn't have any playmates when he was a child. I wonder when Gohan will come back. Videl rested her chin in her hands, thinking of Gohan, and smiled sweetly. Like a girl who had just fallen in love. Chapter 185. I heard from Goku. He said that Gohan went to another universe, but he didn't explain what he meant. But no matter what he says, it's ridiculous. I don't know how to respond. Does he still remember that there's a home here? Father and son are away from home day after day. This family would have fallen apart long ago if it weren't for the two of us. Although Chi-Chi has become younger again, her mental age remains the same. Listening to her words, Videl couldn't help but smile and said, "Mom, as long as they are safe and our family is healthy, they will always come back." "Hey, I wish I could think like you," Chi-Chi said helplessly. At the foot of Mount Paozu, the white-haired Paragus looked up at the sky and lamented that time is unforgiving. In the east, Krillin's family of three cuddled together and had a good time. Krillin is now in his 50s and has grown his hair, but it has turned gray and there are some wrinkles at the corners of his eyes. His wife Marin is about the same age as him, but she is well maintained. She has a rosy complexion and a plump figure, dressed like a lady. Ahem, her charm is still there. In the Shinkaku Senryu martial arts hall, Tien and Kaiotsu strictly taught their disciples, vowing to carry forward the spirit of martial arts. Fitness coach Yamcha is still single and flirts with different female students every day. On Kame Island, Master Roshi follows the beautiful yoga instructor on TV and exercises hard every day. Oolong often exchanges thoughts with Master Roshi. But Puar is almost bored to death and can only play with the big turtle every day. Android 16 lives deep in the forest, surrounded by animals and plants every day. Whenever any unscrupulous businessman tries to enter the forest to capture rare animals and plants, they are inevitably beaten up by the big guy and then fly out like a rocket. Gas was rapidly approaching Earth, getting closer and closer. The first person to notice Gas was North Kai, who had just stopped racing. North Kai conjured up a handkerchief from nowhere and wiped the sweat from his forehead. He took a sip of the coffee that Gohan gave him, lay comfortably on the sofa, and looked up at the sky. "Ha, it's so comfortable." He let out a breath, and the two antennas above his head moved. This was God's radar, which receives signals from the lower world. "Ha? Who is this person? Flying in space?" North Kai was shocked. He saw Gas traveling through space at an astonishing speed. Is he heading for Earth? Hiss, what terrifying anger, what a powerful guy. North Kai swore that he had only sensed such powerful ki in Gohan. However, Gohan usually doesn't release his terrifying ki, only using his full strength in desperate situations. As for Goku, Vegeta, and the others, North Kai believes they are just a matter of time. Moreover, the Z warriors usually do not release their ki. But this guy is like a blazing sun, releasing his ki recklessly, as if he wants others to sense him. In other words, maybe he can't control his anger? Is this guy going to Earth to seek revenge? He's coming with bad intentions. When did such a terrifying mortal appear in this universe? North Kai was confused. Ha! It's him, it's definitely him. Then he remembered, this is the fourth sibling of the Heater family. Back then, North Kai had secretly observed Frieza, so he had also seen the Heater family who were colluding with Frieza. It's just that decades had passed, and Gas had changed so much that North Kai didn't recognize him immediately. No, I have to inform Gohan and the others quickly. But just after he muttered to himself, North Kai realized that Gohan was not on Earth now. So he contacted Piccolo. After Piccolo received the notice from North Kai, he didn't take it seriously, thinking North Kai was making a fuss out of nothing. Although Gohan, Goku, Vegeta, Broly, and others weren't on Earth. Piccolo and Trunks were no slouches either. Not to mention, those little Saiyans are among the best in the universe. Who would dare invade Earth? Piccolo even pitied the poor guy who was rushing toward Earth. Piccolo had that much confidence. During the Tournament of Power, Lord Beerus and Gohan had already screened the combat power of Universe 7. At that time, the top combat forces in this universe were all people they knew. How long had it been since the tournament? Could someone strong enough to threaten them really emerge? This seemed impossible. Besides, with his orange state and Trunks Super Saiyan 4 God form, who, apart from those they already knew, could possibly defeat them? What a joke. But soon, Piccolo's face turned pale. An extremely massive ki, like sunlight, instantly enveloped the galaxies near Earth. What kind of terrible anger is this? Piccolo stopped meditating and jumped from the air, unable to remain calm. Not only him, but all the Z warriors on Earth were now panicking. Trunks silently put on his combat jacket and shouldered his sword, his face terrifyingly cold. He gave instructions to the android Bulma had created and asked it to take care of Bulma and Bra. Then he called Bu and flew quickly to Kami's lookout. I don't know what will happen next. But brother Gohan, it's my turn to protect this world. His face looked more determined, and his flying speed increased a bit. One by one, the Z warriors put on their martial arts uniforms that they hadn't worn in a long time, soared into the air, and flew toward Kami's lookout from all directions. They may not be the strongest, but they never back down. Even if it means death, why should they fear it? Mount Paozu. Several little Saiyans also wanted to go, but were stopped by Videl and Chi-Chi. Mom, let me go. Goten begged Chi-Chi. No. Chi-Chi held Goten tightly with both hands. Mom, we want to go too. Something terrible is going to happen. Just let us go. We can help. Sun Tzu looked at Videl and pleaded. Videl decisively refused. No, I won't agree. Is there no one on Earth now? Do we really need you little brats to step forward? Don't even think about it, just stay at home and don't cause trouble. Mom, we are not ordinary children, Pan shook her head. Our father is Son Gohan. Chapter 186. So what? If I said I won't let you go, then I won't let you go. Even if the sky falls, there will be adults to support it. Your father and your grandfather will not let you go. The three children had bitter expressions. In the end, they couldn't resist the orders of the two adults. Kami, look out. The Z warriors arrived one by one. Piccolo breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Trunks and Buu descending from the sky. Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, and others also arrived one after another. Seeing everyone gathered, Piccolo repeated the words of North Kai to them. Everyone listened with sinking expressions, feeling the immense pressure. In fact, they didn't need North Kai to tell them how powerful and terrifying this ki was. They still remembered that the last time they felt such despair was when Frieza came to Earth to seek revenge. At that time, Goku wasn't on Earth. Fortunately, at the most critical moment, Goku arrived and saved the planet. Piccolo said, now that Gohan isn't here, Lord North Kai said he will inform Goku, Broly, and Vegeta, who are currently with Beerus. What we have to do is delay time and wait for Goku and the others to come back. Piccolo, always the one with the highest IQ among the group, had a clear plan. Delay time. After North Kai contacted Piccolo, he reached out to Supreme Kai Shin. Shin contacted Whis. But Whis's response left Shin momentarily stunned. I already know, and I'm observing. Supreme Kai Shin, okay. Whis turned his head and glanced at the four who were still fighting together. Let them fight a bit longer. Earth. Boom. A terrifying figure broke through the atmosphere. A red electric light instantly appeared over Kami's lookout. Gas hovered above the lookout, gazing down at the Z warriors gathered below. He squinted and looked at them with a cold expression, viewing the Z warriors as if they were a swarm of ants. Everyone felt nervous, staring at Gas without blinking. Piccolo raised his head and spoke first. Who are you? No matter what your purpose is for coming here, leave immediately. The Earth does not welcome you. Gas had obviously come with bad intentions. His ki and temperament made it clear he wasn't a good person. But Piccolo still wanted to buy time through dialogue, giving Goku and Vegeta enough time to arrive. Gas sneered and responded, Humph, you ants actually knew I was coming? It seems like you were waiting for me. Ants? Hearing this arrogant term, the Z warriors' faces showed displeasure. You're the scion who defeated Granola, aren't you? You don't look very strong, Gas said, looking at Trunks. Whether by ki or appearance, scions were easy to identify. Gas recognized Trunks immediately as the only scion in the group. Granola? Trunks frowned, recalling the green-haired young man he spared some time ago. Is he coming for me? Is he Granola's companion? Is he here to avenge Granola? Trunks jumped into the air, facing Gas directly. Yes, I defeated Granola. Then you can die. Gas said coldly, suddenly raising his hand. A purple ki shot through the air toward Trunks. Everyone was startled by the sudden attack. Trunks was no exception. Is this guy trying to kill me at the slightest disagreement? Sure enough, he's not a good perso. Luckily, his Super Saiyan 4 transformation could be activated instantly. There was a boom. Golden ki burst from his body, and Trunks instantly grew taller and stronger. The dark purple fur on his upper body exuded raw power. Super Saiyan 4. Gas's purple ki rays were like light, cutting through the air. They reached Trunks before his eyes could even register them. But Trunks reacted quickly. He clasped his hands together to block the attack. Boom! The attack exploded. The wind howled. Trunks was blown backward. Ah! Trunks let out a long roar, and the God Ki surged as he stabilized himself mid-flight. At that moment, the golden ki around Trunks had turned pink, shimmering with a crystal-like glow. This was the Super Saiyan 4 that possessed God Ki, breaking through the limits of the original transformation. Trunks' regular Super Saiyan 4 couldn't withstand Gas's attack. His arm felt numb, and it seemed like the bones in his arm were about to crack. The shock in his heart was indescribable. Isn't this guy too strong? Trunks felt as if he were facing Broly or Gohan. Even Goku didn't put this much pressure on him. Not to mention his father, Vegeta. The guy in front of him was incredibly difficult. Trunks stared at Gas, his heart sinking. Although the Saiyan blood in him surged with excitement, he was also deeply worried. You can actually take one of my attacks? No wonder you defeated Granola, Gas said, clicking his tongue. Trunks groaned internally. It seemed that this guy didn't have a clear understanding of his own strength. On the lookout, everyone was also a bit panicked. From the first encounter, they saw the strength gap between the two sides. While their power wasn't as strong as Trunks, they had enough experience to recognize the situation. Trunks' Super Saiyan 4 couldn't handle Gas's attack. Only in his God Ki enhanced form could he barely contend with him. Trunks is no match for him, and neither am I. Piccolo quickly assessed the situation in his mind. Now, all he could do was hope Goku and the others arrived soon. In the sky, Trunks suddenly raised his eyebrows and grinned, "You're powerful. It seems I'm not your match, but you're not invincible. I know someone who can definitely defeat you." Gas's brow twitched as he coldly replied, "Humph, that person you speak of doesn't exist, because I am now the strongest warrior in the universe." "Ha ha, the strongest warrior in the universe? You're just a frog in a well," Trunks laughed loudly. Then, all the ki in his body suddenly exploded, and he rushed toward Gas. There's no use in worrying. Even if he couldn't win, he still had to fight with all his heart. At this point, it was all about stalling for time. Trunks' mindset shifted as he launched a ferocious attack on Gas. Whoosh whoosh. Bang 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 bang. Punch after punch, kick after kick. Trunks' attacks came down like a relentless storm. Like mercury pouring over the ground, his attacks struck Gas from every angle. Day. Trunks gave it his all. But Gas was like a small boat in a storm, swaying, rising and falling, avoiding all of Trunks' attacks. Pathetic! Gas was enraged and threw a punch with his right fist, instantly hitting Trunks, who had been moving at high speed. There was a loud bang. Trunks' body plummeted from the sky like a meteor, crashing through the lookout square as thick smoke billowed out. Fufufu Trunks emerged from the smoke, sweat dripping from his forehead, panting heavily. Gas glared at him and shouted, "Do you still think someone can defeat me?" "That's right, Gohan could kill you with one hand," Trunks sneered. "You're truly shameless. Then where is he hiding now?" Gas opened his right hand, and the purple ki transformed into a giant axe. He rushed forward, aiming the axe at Trunks. Trunks instantly drew the sword from his back and faced him. The two figures crossed paths. There was a loud sound. Trunks' sword snapped in half, and blood burst from his chest. The sword broke, and blood scattered into the air. Trunks' figure plummeted from the sky. Super Saiyan 4 God was defeated just like that. Chapter 187. Pain, severe pain. Trunks was struck with an axe on the chest, his sternum broken. The wound penetrated more than an inch into his flesh, and his entire chest was stained red with blood. Bastard! The heavy bleeding made Trunks' eyelids heavy, and he fell from the air. Trunks! Piccolo yelled, and in a flash, he was beside Trunks and supported him. "Trunks, how are you? Are you okay?" Piccolo asked. "Ahem, not dead yet," Trunks said reluctantly, with a trace of blood spilling from the corner of his mouth. It was obvious that he had suffered serious internal injuries. "Here, senzu beans." Piccolo took out a senzu bean and handed it to him. "Ahem, thanks." Trunks said nothing more, took the senzu bean, and swallowed it in one gulp. After the senzu bean entered his stomach, Trunks' injuries healed instantly, and his body returned to its peak condition. Gas noticed this and his eyes couldn't help but light up. There is such a good thing? He decided that he would question Piccolo later and get the senzu beans for himself. Whoosh! Gas's figure flashed. The next moment, he appeared in front of Piccolo and Trunks, attacking them. Neither of them had time to be surprised at how Gas had moved instantly, and they quickly used defensive movements to protect themselves. Bang bang! Two powerful and heavy punches. Trunks' chest felt tight and he was forced back. Piccolo finally understood why Trunks couldn't defend against Gas's attack earlier. Piccolo felt a numbness in his right arm, and then the entire arm was destroyed, turning into a bloody mist. He had used his right arm to block Gas's attack, but Gas's punch had turned it into nothing. "Uncle Piccolo, stay back!" Trunks shouted, resolutely rushing toward Gas. What terrifying power! Piccolo was horrified. Fortunately, he was a Namekian and had the ability to regenerate severed limbs. Otherwise, just one blow would have disabled him. Gas's power was simply terrifying. Ha! Piccolo shouted, using his body strength. A complete right arm instantly grew. But sweat dripped from his forehead. Namekian limb regeneration comes at the cost of consuming a lot of stamina. By this time, Trunks was already worn out from defending and was being repeatedly beaten back by Gas. His body had already taken damage in many places. They couldn't wait any longer. Piccolo clenched his fists and gathered all his strength. Ah! Accompanied by his roar, Piccolo's body enlarged in an instant, and his power surged drastically. Not only that, but his green skin turned a golden yellow. His face became harder, and a golden halo shone behind him. He had transformed into his strongest form, Orange Piccolo. "Trunks, let me help you," Piccolo shouted loudly. His whole body erupted with bright light as he rushed toward Gas and Trunks, who were still fighting. Boom! Trunks and Gas exchanged punches. A powerful storm was generated, and ripples of ki spread in all directions. Kami's lookout shook violently. Dent had no choice but to control the lookout and move it away from the center of the storm for safety. Of course, the first to bear the brunt was Piccolo, who had rushed into the battlefield. Ah! Fighting against the fierce wind, Piccolo raised his power to its peak, successfully breaking through the ki barrier and reaching the heart of the battle. Wow! Trunks couldn't hold back any longer and spat out a mouthful of blood. His vision dimmed. "You bastard, go to hell!" Piccolo was furious and kicked with all his might, hitting Gas in the back of the neck. But to everyone's surprise, Gas didn't move at all. Instead, Piccolo's face changed drastically, and his whole body started trembling. At that moment, Piccolo felt as if the bones in his leg had been shattered. What kind of terrible power gap is this? Even in his strongest form, he couldn't harm him. The ki in Gas's body exploded, and both Trunks and Piccolo were sent flying. Gas sneered and said, "Ants are always ants. No matter how strong you are, you're just stronger ants. How can you be worthy of being my enemy? Like I said, I am the strongest warrior in the universe." Trunks was breathing heavily. Sweat dripped from Piccolo's forehead. Seeing this, everyone at Kami's lookout couldn't stand by any longer. They were eager to join the battle. Everyone jumped into the air and flew over. Seeing this, Trunks' pupils shrank. He turned and shouted, "What are you doing? Don't come here." "We're going to join the fight," Tien said, his expression firm. Piccolo also spoke up, "You should leave quickly, this is not a battle you can participate in." The power gap was too vast to be made up by numbers. If Krillin, Tien, and the others joined the battle, even the aftermath of Gas's ki could turn them into mist. If that happened, there would be many casualties. How would they explain that to Goku and Gohan? Gas glanced at everyone and said coldly, "You all want to face me too? Ungrateful fools, let me send you to your deaths first." He raised his hand and pressed it toward them. Boom! Suddenly, a violent wave of ki surged toward everyone. "No, stop." Trunks' eyes turned red as he nearly went mad. Whoosh! He quickly used instant transmission, arriving first in front of everyone, and stretched out his hands to block Gas's attack. Boom! The ki exploded. Trunks took the full force of the attack, and his body was covered in scars. he was severely injured again. Gas crossed his arms, sneering repeatedly, as if watching an entertaining show. Ha, what a display of love and righteousness. I didn't expect such an interesting twist. Trunks. Everyone was stunned. Go! Trunks' voice was hoarse, like a beast's wail, low and terrifying. Trunks was right. They weren't qualified to participate in the fight, and staying would only be a burden. Their eyes were all red, but they had to admit this fact. Trunks, come on, you can definitely beat him, Krillin choked, then stretched out his hand, transferring the little key in his body to Trunks. Yes, Trunks, we all believe in you. Take my power, Yamcha said, stretching out his hand and pouring all his ki into Trunks. Then Tien, Kaiatsu, and the others followed, giving their ki to Trunks. Majin Buu, on the other hand, was trembling all over. He looked at Gas, his eyes filled with fierce determination, and several streams of white mist sprayed from the vents on his head. Damn it, you dare hurt Trunks. I'm going to kill you. He rushed toward Gas in a fit of rage. Over the past few years, Majin Buu had come to see Trunks as his best friend and partner. At this moment, Majin Buu was truly furious. Kill you, he shouted, shooting ki blasts one after another, quickly closing in on Gas. Humph, here comes another dead ant, Gas said disdainfully as he swung his mace. It was reminiscent of Kaido's Thunder Bagua. With a bang, Buu was smashed into a squirming ball of flesh by Gas's mace. Seven Suri, who had been silent the whole time, instantly switched to Majin Buu's state. A recovery spell fell on Trunks, and then Seven Suri rushed toward Gas without looking back. Chapter 188. Because Seven Suri copied Buu, his fighting style was basically the same as Buu's. It only took one round before he was beaten to a pulp by Gas. The fleshy foam kept squirming, flying together and returning to its original appearance. With a pop sound, Buu inflated like a balloon, changing from fleshy to chubby. What kind of physique is this? Gas was stunned for a moment after seeing the weird bodies of Majin Buu and Seven Suri. Ha, interesting. Majin Buu's mouth twisted, his eyes narrowed until they nearly closed. He floated into the air, and the tentacle on his head shot out a purple electric light, aiming at Gas. Turn into chocolate. It was his magic that could turn creatures into various forms of candy. Gas's figure flashed, and he dodged easily. The purple electric spark missed, creating a puff of white smoke in the air. Gas grinned as his figure flashed again. His speed was so fast that no one could follow him. In the next moment, he appeared behind Buu, one hand suddenly reaching out, firmly grasping the tentacle on Buu's head, controlling Buu's body, and beating him with his other hand. Buu's body was thrown around, being beaten into various shapes, and letting out screams. The screams were accompanied by Gas's wild laughter. Asshole! Die! Special beam cannon! Piccolo was high in the air, with his middle finger and index finger pressed between his eyebrows. His whole body was filled with anger, and arcs of electricity flashed around him. The piercing special beam cannon, known as the most powerful single-target attack, had been fully charged. Die! The attack entwined with golden and purple ki roared out, heading straight for Gas and Majin Buu. Buu, I'm sorry. You're immortal anyway, so I can only target you too, Piccolo thought. Ha! Sensing the threat, Gas raised his head suddenly. He then slapped the attack with his right palm. Boom! The palm collided with the beam. Piccolo grinned, already imagining Gas being either dead or gravely injured. But was this really the case? After hearing only a roar, the special beam cannon, known for its powerful impact, was forcibly redirected by Gas's palm and shot into the vast space, causing a terrifying explosion. The sky and earth dimmed, and entire planets were wiped out. Piccolo opened his mouth wide in disbelief. How is that possible? Gas had knocked away the attack he was so proud of with just a wave of his hand. You are courting death. Gas held Majin Buu in his left hand and raised his right hand, pointing it at Piccolo. Whoosh! A beam of light pierced the sky. A flower of blood instantly bloomed from Piccolo's body as his chest was penetrated. After a few more shots, blood flowers bloomed again. Piccolo trembled all over. He could no longer maintain his form and returned to his original appearance. Not only that, but he also coughed up a large mouthful of blood. His body was visibly decaying, and his vitality was rapidly draining away. Oomph, die. Gas accumulated ki, and a bright light erupted from his right hand, intending to deal a fatal blow to Piccolo. At that moment, a ki blast shot up into the sky and hit Gas on the cheek, knocking him away. The ki blast in his right hand also dissipated. The left hand that had been tightly gripping Majin Buu also released him. Majin Buu successfully escaped. The one who had fired the ki blast was, of course, Trunks. Seeing Gas being knocked away by his sneak attack, Trunks didn't pursue the advantage but instead teleported to Piccolo's side, taking him back to the lookout and handing him over to Dend. Dend, Uncle Piccolo's life is in your hands, Trunks said, then teleported again to face Gas. Dend didn't dare delay. He put his hands on Piccolo's chest and began healing him. Although the Namekians have strong self-healing abilities, they couldn't withstand Gas's powerful attack. If not treated in time, it was possible that Piccolo could die from excessive blood loss. After the healing ki enveloped Piccolo, his complexion slowly returned to normal, and his body quickly recovered. Meanwhile, on the other side, Trunks, after absorbing the ki of the Z warriors, seemed to grow stronger as he fought. The combined ki of his uncles was just a drop in the bucket for him and didn't increase his strength much. However, it gave him immense courage. It made him feel that he wasn't fighting alone, and as a result, Trunks became braver and more powerful in battle. There was a sense of exhilaration in breaking through his limits. Buu and Suri weren't idle either. They formed a triangular attack formation with Trunks and attacked Gas together. After fighting for a while, Gas seemed to tire of playing around. He exploded with Aha and knocked all three of them away. Trunks was panting, blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. The injuries to Majin Buu and Suri were far worse. It seemed as if they could die at any moment. After all, the difference in power was too great. If Gas had wanted to fight seriously from the beginning, the three of them would have been dead already. Ah, let's end this, Gas said, standing high in the sky, raising his hands. What is this guy planning? Trunks wondered. At that moment, beams of light shot from Gas's hands. 1 became 10, 10 became hundreds, hundreds became thousands, and thousands became tens of thousands. The light fell to the earth like rain. Purple ki rained down across the entire earth. That ki pierced the hearts of the people on earth. Countless people fell like wheat in a field. Only a few skilled earthlings escaped the ki's pursuit and survived by luck. The earth's population plummeted by 80%. Stop it. Trunks' eyes turned red, and he rushed toward Gas in a frenzy, trying to stop his indiscriminate attack. Oomph, I just killed some ants. Seeing Trunks charging at him, Gas stopped and faced him. Masenko! Trunks shouted, raising his hands above his head and quickly condensing a huge ki blast, which he shot at Gas. Gas waved his hand and flicked the ki blast away. In a flash, he punched Trunks in the lower abdomen. But at that moment, Trunks seemed to forget the pain and punched Gas in the face. Boom! He hit Gas square in the cheek. But Gas didn't even flinch. It was as if the punch, meant to be devastating, was nothing more than a mosquito bite. A huge mace suddenly appeared in Gas's right hand, and he swept it through the air. With a bang, Trunks was knocked away again. At that moment, a pink ball of flesh suddenly appeared behind Gas, enveloping his entire body. What? Gas turned around suddenly. But the world around him went dark, covered in lumps of flesh. Not far away, Majin Buu hooked his hand, and the pink ball of flesh quickly compressed to the size of a fist and flew in his direction. Chapter 189. Whoosh! The pink meatball flew over and smeared itself onto Majin Buu's body. Then it fused with his body, becoming a part of him. Successful? Piccolo's eyes lit up. No one could have imagined that such a ferocious opponent like Gas could be subdued by Majin Buu so easily. But no matter how it happened, this was great news. Majin Buu also looked down at his body, wondering why nothing had changed after absorbing such a powerful being. This was very unreasonable. But suddenly, there was a boom. Majin Buu exploded like a big watermelon, and pieces of flesh splattered everywhere, causing everyone's pupils to shrink. Gas appeared again. He stood in the center of the explosion, spitting and wiping his body in disgust. Bah, that's disgusting. You wanted to absorb me, you fat pig? Interesting ability. But it's over now. You asked for it and got blown to pieces. Piccolo. Sure enough, they had been happy too soon. What should they do now? When will Goku, Vegeta, and Broly arrive? The situation was getting worse and worse. But an idea flashed in Piccolo's mind, and he immediately thought of a new strategy. He wrapped his voice with ki and spoke to his friends through telepathy. Everyone close your eyes. Next, I'll use solar flare to blind him, and then we can take the opportunity to control him. Suri, listen carefully. When I control him, copy his power. It sounded like a feasible plan. Suri, who was standing in the distance, nodded slightly, indicating that he understood. Trunks frowned, sensing something was wrong. Piccolo flew towards Gas. Seeing Piccolo approach, Gas didn't take him seriously and sneered, "Your vitality is so tenacious. You won't die even after my attack, but it will only bring you more suffering. If I were you, I would have run away a long time ago." Piccolo stood not far from him and smiled, "We are not cowards who run away, and you are not invincible. I've already figured out how to deal with you." "Oh? Really? Why do you always tell jokes like this?" "They're not funny at all," Gas said. While speaking, Piccolo placed his hands on his forehead. "What are you doing? Surrendering?" Gas looked at him and sneered. "Humph." Piccolo snorted and then suddenly shouted, "Solar flare." Suddenly, Piccolo transformed into a giant sun, bursting with dazzling light. The world was bathed in pale light. Gas's eyes hurt so much that he teared up, instantly blinded by the flash. "Suri, now!" Piccolo shouted, rushing toward Gas and using his hands and feet to firmly hold him. Suri had already rushed over at Piccolo's signal, raised his hand, and lightly touched the back of Gas's neck. Gas was furious. "You bastards, I'll kill you." "Ah!" he roared, and terrifying ki erupted from his body. Piccolo, who was holding him, was stunned for half a second before his body was torn to pieces by Gas's burst of energy. The effect of solar flare dissipated, and the sky and earth returned to normal. "Uncle Piccolo!" Trunks screamed in horror. Although Uncle Piccolo had the ability to heal himself, it was far inferior to Buu's. Could he survive this? The more Trunks thought about it, the angrier he became. His ki surged again. He stepped through the air and rushed at Gas once more. "You overestimate yourself," Gas sneered and threw a punch. "You'll die," Trunks replied, unable to calm down, and punched back with equal force. The fists collided, a loud bang echoed, and an unknown space split open. A huge tear appeared in the sky, and violent ki exploded above the earth, rushing into deep space and shaking the planet. Trunks' blood surged, and his throat tasted sweet as he spat out blood. Immediately after, his body was smashed away like a meteor, hurtling toward the ground. He fell so fast that sparks shot from his body, and his clothes began to burn. It truly looked like a meteorite. On the other side, the orb on Suri's forehead flashed. The orb quickly reflected Gas's form. Switching into Gas's form. This was the power he had just copied. Boom! Suri's entire body surged with energy, and electric arcs danced in the sky. Immediately, his power skyrocketed at an alarming rate. "Ah!" Suri gritted his teeth, as the crazy increase in power almost made him lose control. Moreover, his body began experiencing bursts of severe pain. Gas noticed something unusual about Suri and turned to look. "What's going on with him?" Gas frowned, as if he was seeing another version of himself, a version in pain. "Ah!" Suri's power kept rising. But the physical discomfort worsened. His muscles swelled painfully, and he struggled to stay in control as his blood vessels seemed ready to burst. Suri stared at Gas, seemingly finding a target for his energy. With red eyes, he rushed at Gas. Die. Suri moved at super speed, and in the blink of an eye, he was right in front of Gas and punched with all his strength. The wind surged high in the sky, and the punch seemed to suck the air out of the surroundings. Humph! Gas snorted, but he didn't dare let his guard down and prepared to counter. The current Suri gave him a strong sense of danger, as if he were looking at his berserk self. But that was all. Suddenly, Suri's ki came to an abrupt halt, and the air went deathly silent. The next moment, endless energy surged toward Suri. His body turned into a black hole, then suddenly exploded. Boom! The terrifying ki drained everything around it, swallowing everything in its path. Gas quickly raised a protective shield to defend himself. The terrifying explosion crushed everything in its wake, and the scattered energy rippled out into the universe. Kami's lookout was crumbling and falling apart. Mr. Popo quickly moved the lookout away from the center of the explosion. The faces of the Z-warriors standing on Kami's lookout were grim. They felt like ants, unable to affect the battle at all, helpless. Now, the gap in their power was so vast that it felt like they no longer existed in the same dimension. Den walked to the edge of the lookout and looked down at the earth, beads of sweat rolling down his face. Earth, half of the earth has been blown up by the aftermath of this explosion. Everyone could see it. Suri simply couldn't handle the overwhelming power of Gas. His body had self-destructed. Despair, helplessness, and all kinds of emotions spread. Is there anyone left on Earth who can stop Gas? Suri was gone. Piccolo had been torn to pieces by Gas's explosion of ki. Majin Buu had been blown into bits and disappeared. Trunks had been knocked down to the ground. What now? What could they do? Could they really do nothing but wait for Goku and the others to return? Damn it, Gohan, where are you? Come back quickly. Everyone at Kami's lookout looked despondent, as despair washed over them. And then, Gas's demonic, blood-red figure suddenly fell from the sky and landed in front of the Z-warriors. *TN, reading this makes me want to punch Whis. He knows the situation but decided not to inform the others. I know they did this because of the plot, to heighten the stakes. It's the Dragon Ball way, but still. Chapter 190. Everyone was swallowing hard. The scene was horribly depressing, with no trace of life in sight. What are you going to do? Krillin asked. Gas licked his lips and said, let me ask you a question. If your answer satisfies me, I may be able to spare your life. Tell me, what's your question? Gas said, that Scion boy said there's someone who can defeat me. I want to know, do you know any other Scions? Where is the person he mentioned? Is he also a Scion? Although I know no one can defeat me, I still feel very unhappy. Tell me about it and see if the answer satisfies me. Yamcha swallowed and said, yes, there are still several Scions. The person Trunks mentioned is his teacher, Gohan, who is also a very powerful Scion. I think the other Scions are probably already on their way back to Earth. Seeing as you seem to hate Scions very much, you might as well wait here quietly. They should arrive soon. Then do you think that person can defeat me? Gas asked, tilting his head. Of course, that's possible. Krillin smiled and shook his head, but in his heart, he was already cursing. You'd better not run away, you'll be dead when Goku and the others come back. Oh? It seems like you're cursing me in your heart. Gas sneered. No, how could I? Krillin took a step back, waving his hands, beads of sweat rolling down his forehead. It's better if you're not. Then I'll let you survive for a little while. I'll wait here for them to come back. Gas said and sat down cross-legged, utterly arrogant. Everyone was silent as a cicada, not daring to say another word. It would be best if this Gas could wait quietly for Goku and the others to return. No one wanted to provoke him. Den, who was standing on the edge of the Kami lookout square, looking down at the earth, suddenly brightened up. This was because he saw Trunks alive. Trunks climbed out of the pit. He coughed twice, patted the dirt off his body, and looked up at the sky. That guy stopped and is now on the lookout. What does he want? No, Uncle Krillin and the others are all at the lookout. Trunks' expression changed, realizing the dangerous situation Krillin and the others were in. Damn it, I can't deal with him at all with my current strength. He clenched his fists, frustration in his eyes. Trunks sensed the ki of Bulma and the others again. Fortunately, they were all still alive, and Gas's ki rain hadn't harmed them. Aunt Chi-Chi, Sister Videl, Goten, Pan, and Sun Tzu are all still alive, so they're safe, Trunks murmured. No, Uncle Krillin and the others are still at the Kami lookout. It's too dangerous. I have to go there. Trunks frowned, preparing to use instant transmission. At that moment, a faint breath appeared not far from him. He turned quickly and saw Piccolo, pale but alive. Trunks' eyes widened, and he ran over. Uncle Piccolo, you're alive. That's great. It's hard to imagine that Namekians could survive after being blown to pieces. Piccolo smiled bitterly and said, as long as my head isn't damaged, I can regenerate, but it consumes a lot of my ki. It's good you're alive, that's what matters, Trunks said, pulling out 2 senzu beans. He handed one to Piccolo and quickly swallowed the other. Piccolo wasn't shy and swallowed his bean instantly. Their injuries healed almost immediately. Piccolo then said, it seems my previous plan failed. Seven Suri's ki has disappeared. His body really couldn't handle such a powerful force. It's my fault for not thinking it through. Trunks said, I figured this might happen when Seven Suri tried to copy his power. It really was a failure. But Bu should still be around. He can't die that easily. Yeah, he has a special constitution. Piccolo continued, Trunks, I thought of a better plan. Trunks, what plan? At this point, what else could they do? To be honest, facing such a powerful opponent like Gas, Trunks even thought it would be difficult to defeat him, even if Goku, Vegeta, and Broly returned. He believed it might only be possible when Gohan returned. But Brother Gohan had been taken to the 6th universe by Lord Beerus, and there was no telling when he would come back. He would have to rely on Master Whis to bring him back. That should be the only way. Piccolo continued, Majin Bu can absorb others to fuse and increase his strength. You saw earlier when he tried to absorb that guy. Trunks nodded. Yeah, I saw, but he failed. Piccolo said, that's because that guy resisted being absorbed. But what if he didn't resist? Trunks' eyes widened, you mean, let Majin Bu absorb us, and then fight that guy? Piccolo nodded and said, yes, that's exactly what I mean. Majin Bu failed to absorb Gas because Gas resisted. But if we're willing to let Majin Bu fuse with us, the fusion could succeed. A very powerful warrior would be born. Maybe we won't have to wait for Goku and the others. Maybe we can defeat that guy ourselves. That wraps up this part of What If Reborn is Gohan in Future Timeline. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder. What if Ichigo awoke his true powers will be finished soon, since we've nearly at the end of the story. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if Gacha system in Modern Family World? What if Transmigrated in Bleach World? What if Transmigrated in One Piece and becoming a Marine? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.